To be honest, when I finished the previous video of the payment section, I believe it's in a very good state and in a maintainable, extendable, everything is in a very good state. And I just found a very interesting thing this morning, and I think that can improve our code quality significantly and reduce all the duplications or the bad smells we didn't realize. And I really want to share that findings with you as well today. And without further ado, let's get started. Hello my friend, my name is Juntao. I'm a software developer, an author, and a creator. I help people write better code. I do that by writing blogs and articles or even books. And I also create videos for people who want to learn clean code, refactoring, test-driven development, and many other things in software development. Yeah, I enjoy to create this content to help people, especially for the beginners, to learn these fundamental techniques they will need in day-to-day life. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and turn on the notifications, so whenever I have new releases, you will get notified. If you look at the payment section, it's pretty, it looks pretty good, but still there are a few small things we can improve. For example, the round-up hook and the agree to donate, kind of we can move this agree to donate stuff inside into that use roundup hook, because it looks more natural to maintain all the status in one place, and only like using these functions and status from that hook and then control them or use them in a component. So let's firstly inline this handle change into the input. It's command option N. We can inline this into the calling place, which is here. Also, the next step will be we can move this whole user state into the hook here. We can just simply copy that over, and then from here we will return this to setter and the state itself, and then we don't have to pass it in because we are maintaining the state inside the hook. Also, I think we don't need this setter to be exposed to the calling place. Instead, we should have a method to do that internally. We call it update agree to donate function. Sorry, it's a function that does this, and then we expose this updater or setter method to the outside world, and then from here we don't have to know the details, and then we just call the update to donate, and then these two pairs will comes from the hook, and then we don't need this agree to donate anymore. And also we will get rid of the use stater from React because we are not maintaining that anymore. So at this point, all the four variables or status from we needed to render the payment or like control the payment are all from this hook. And if we run the test again, and it will pass. That's great. So we kind of have this like stater all managed inside the hook, and from the outside or like the payment section, it only need to call this function from that hook. So the payment component itself, the view, is much more simpler. It's only like consume whatever return from that hook. The hook has all the state management and the callback, update the state when something happened, and also it has all the calculation or like logic based on the amount and the country code, which is great. We don't have to worry about that from the view, and the logic is like pushed to a hook that has all the it's not actually the hook is not doing too much. It's all dedicating to the actual calculation logic, so it kind of making the application runs in few layers. So the view is purely responsible for the look and the feel, and let's, for example, if you want to put some CSS for the look and the feels, for example, if we put the class for these, I think it's payment button, and if we put some like containers to make it looks slight different, we can do that very easily. Donation. And now we can check what happens in the browser. If we refresh the page, oh yes, we need to, I have already put some simple CSS here. So if we introduce this CSS, import CSS into the page, and it will make the component looks slightly different. And yeah, I think it's more readable. I'm pretty happy with the current stage of the code, as the tests are all passing. And the look and the view looks great. And also we have this kind of separation of concerns. The logic are pushed down to the hooks, and the hook are using some high order functions to get the actual algorithm for the roundup logic. It was this morning when I recorded the previous video. I was like thinking like what could be improved after that refactoring. Like we have a bunch of small functions, we have separation of concerns, we have extracted the algorithm of different types of roundup to a separate place, and it has a great ability to extend, and the code is readable, maintainable as well. But I feel it can be improved even further, but I didn't know how. And in the morning I was thinking probably we can use some design patterns we used in other programming languages or frameworks in React code as well, to make the code more robust, more maintainable. Like we can encapsulate these small functions into a object or a class, and then at runtime we can pick up different algorithms and then apply to the component. So I got some idea, and I like to show you that how we can make the code looks even better without breaking or changing the behavior, but just to adjust the internal implementation, and we can reach to a much more maintainable state. I think I got some ideas, and I will show you how can we make the code looks much better and maintainable by using the object-oriented programming design patterns. The pattern we are going to use here is called strategy pattern or strategy design pattern. It's a very great way to extract all the algorithm into a class, and then at runtime you can switch from one to another to change the underlying behavior of the software. That's a super powerful algorithm, or it's a super powerful design pattern, and I kind of use that quite often in backend development, but I haven't tried that in the front end yet. But I think that's worth it's worth to try. So if you haven't yet, it's called strategy design pattern. I think that's the word. It's used pretty often in backend. So basically, I guess you can see some, yeah, like it has an interface. Basically, it has strategy, and you can have different implementation of that strategy, and at runtime you can apply one of them, or like you can dynamically change that, change the current strategy to another, and then under the hood it will change the navigator behavior in this case. So this design pattern is super powerful for us to like change the behavior dynamically. That is exactly what we want. Like in this case, it's a payment still, but we want it to behave like Australian roundup, and this one it will be a Japan roundup, and this one will be Denmark roundup. So the payment under the hood should be pretty similar, but the behavior is different. Okay, so enough for the theory. Let's jump into the code. I think for the current payment, as you can see, there are a lot of places we are using the country code. For example, we format the input label by the country code. We format the button label by country code as well. And in the hook use roundup, we will use the country code as the key for different algorithms. That's kind of a sign that you probably can using this country code as something in a high level. Like we don't have to spread this country code everywhere. Instead, at the very beginning, we will use different instances of algorithm and apply that algorithm to to the payment section. And in the payment section, when it's need to formatting the label, it will fetch something from that passed in algorithm or strategy. And in a roundup calculation, it's same theory. It will get a calculation logic from that strategy and apply that. So I will show you how what I mean here. So for example, in payment, instead of passing a country code, we will pass in a strategy. By that I mean, so strategy will be an interface. It has different implementations. So for example, if we have a roundup strategy, which has a bunch of functions inside. For example, get currency sign will be one of it, and it will return a string, right? And the get amount, or like roundup amount, will be one of it as well. So you pass in amount, which is a number, and it returns another number, right? So maybe it's called, what do we call it here? We call it total number or something like that. What is it? So in here we call it roundup. Okay. So here we get roundup, and for the tip as well, we will pass in an amount, which is a number again, and it returns amount number. All right, so in here, instead of passing a country code, we will pass in a strategy instead. So the strategy will be roundup strategy. We can make it optional for now, just in case we don't pass it in and we will fail the tests. So what we try to do here is, instead of passing the country code, we passed in a roundup like that, and it's optional. Oh, sorry, we probably can use that for the different in different places. So one of the things I noticed is the country code here we are passing to the formatting label for both labels, and to make that happen without breaking too much tests, we can inline this function into this component temporarily, and we fix that and then extract that as a function again. So let's do that. We will need to command option N to introduce it back, and we don't have to select the constants reference now exposed. That's totally fine because we're not going to use that $sign anymore. So we'll introduce it back, and this one is exactly what we would get from the strategy. So we'll replace this with that get currency sign without this country code. Right, so the strategy here will be, what is the issue here? Run up strategy and this strategy, and we will call that strategy dot get. What is the problem? Unused parameter. Yes, exactly. Oh, sorry, we don't need the type here. So okay, we will use this anyway, and it says possibly undefined. Yeah, that's fine. We will fix that later. And for this one as well, we will format button label. Yes, let's inline that at one as well. Command option N, refactor, and ignore that one for now. And strategy dot get current sign, and it will return the current sign, which will different from country to country. And now we can then extract this as a function again. Command option M, what do you call the format label, input label, and this one as well. So it will be format button label. All right. So it will, instead of depends on the country code, now it depends on the strategy. And also we will making sure it's not undefined. So here it will be never be undefined. This one as well, it will be always a value there, and we can get rid of this for now, and we will fix the test right away. So strategy will always be some implementation there. So for example, if we can have a class for like Australian, roundup strategy Australia will implement the roundup strategy, for example, if we have a roundup strategy Australian, which will implement this interface, and we will implement all members, which will be something like this. And for the currency sign, will be return this. And for the rest, let's ignore them for now. But yeah, you got the idea, right? So for Japan, it will be the Japanese currency, and for Denmark or any other countries, it will be corresponding currency size. And yeah, we can have this. Actually, let's probably move this to its own file, and yeah, let's do that. It has using this type. Yeah, okay, so we let's extract this into the type first. Types. Yeah, let's extract this into the types, and then this one will be Australian, and then it's using the type from there, and then we will export this class to global space as well. Cool. And so now we can move these two methods back to the utils or helpers as what we had last time, and it should be in helpers and do the refactoring. So now our payment is back to normal, right? And of course the test, I think at the moment it will fail because we don't have the strategies yet for all this. For example, we would like to set the payment strategy to, you know, new Australian strategy, things like that, and we'll import it. For this one, let's run it from here. It will pass because this is a very special case. Let's try another one. For this one, we will pass in the empty roundup strategy Australian again, and if we run it, okay, it's expecting this dollar to be shown, which is great. We can actually see that dollar is working. And what about the next one? And if we run test again, yeah, it passed again because the button is correctly showing with a dollar sign. And this one, I guess it will fail because it's actually doing something about it. Oh, maybe it will pass. Let's see. Great. So then the only one will fail maybe the roundup logic here. So let's do that. And oh, what? No way, it shouldn't pass, right? Unless, oh yes, sorry. I think it's the country code is still used in the hook. So and by default it's AU, and it will pick up the AU for the calculation, which was kind of cheating, right? We actually need to get rid of this country code, and we don't need that. And for this one, we will pass in the strategy instead to the place, and we will update the use roundup here to strategy, roundup strategy. And now instead of calling this get calculation roundup function and get calculation tip function, we will call the strategy dot get roundup with amount, and the strategy dot get tip with the amount, right? So this way we kind of this will be strategy. We kind of asking the roundup hook depends on the strategy object, which will include all the calculation logic. And strategy at the moment is like it's an instance of that interface, but at the runtime it will be either the Japan or Australia or the Denmark or whatever the country is, and because these implementations are all implementing this method in different ways, it will work magically. So yeah, we don't need this anymore, and country code is not required as well. So if we look at the hook, it will call the strategy dot get roundup or get tip correspondingly, which is this interface will be like it in we will have several different strategies, and then at the runtime we will pass it in just like this, right? And we can now run the test again. I think some of them will fail. Cool. Yeah, this one. Okay, it's expecting I would like to donate some amount of money to charity, and what it see is the 0 because Australian doesn't have anything here yet. I think yeah, that's great because we haven't actually touched that part yet. So it seems we need a the base we need a base class for this strategy. So we can call it maybe abstract class first. Let's say abstract class abstract roundup strategy, which will implement this roundup strategy for now, and all the others will extend this one. So we'll have a algorithm first inside it. Let's say it's protected field called, what is algorithm under the hood? It will be something like this. The return value of the roundup to nearest n will be that algorithm, because that's only different to different strategies. So for Australia, it's this one. We need to initialize Australia with this algorithm. So let's call it algorithm. We can define new type algorithm to a number which accepting a number and return a number, and or maybe we just call it roundup algorithm, and the field internally algorithm will be this one. It's I think it's a private or protected field, right? And yeah, you can imagine that for Australian constructor, it will be this algorithm equals to some algorithm passed in, algorithm roundup algorithm, and it will be algorithm like this. And for yeah, it's because it's currently not it's not implement anything yet, so let's do that. And this one will be abstract because we don't want to implement the function here as a abstract interface, and that will be implement in is that like this? What? Yep. So we are not going to implement the currency sign inside this abstracted roundup strategy, and we will do that in concrete strategy classes. And for this tool, once the algorithm is determined, this tool will be determined as well. So, for example, if we have the helper, if we look at the helper function, yeah, these two we will keep them. I guess the biggest change will be in here. So we will need to move these two methods inside that abstracted class, and then we will call these functions to get the roundup amount and the tip. So if we move them inside here, we can simply call it maybe private method, private format like that, and private, and we will return this dot. And what is this one? Calculate roundup function for. Oh yeah, this is passed in, which is good. And for the get calculate function, it will be calculate tip 4. Calculate tip 4. Calculate tip 4. Country code. Yeah, that will be the algorithm. And it's this dot. And for this one, it will be algorithm as well. This dot algorithm amount. It will return the correct roundup. And for this one, I think it will be yes, this dot get roundup and amount, right? Oh, we need to call that function. Sorry, it should be something like we get that. Oh, is that 2 parameters? Sorry, let me have a look at this. That will be, this is the first. Ah, yes. So it will call this first and then pass in the amount. And yeah, I think it's more like this for all these 3 classes, and we will call this or export this one actually. And we, for Australian, we will extend this method. Let's have a look at this one. Instead of implement the interface, we now have abstract class. We can just extend that class, right? And get this will be, what is that problem? Oh yes, we need a constructor. Constructor, and will be super yeah, for the roundup logic. So the roundup logic for Australian will be what we have in helpers is this one, roundup to nearest integer, like so. And what is this one? Why it's complaining? Class defines interface member, but extended class define it as an instance. Okay, yeah, sure. We probably will just get rid of that one. and we need to get current sign as a string, right? It will be like the abstracted interface, and we will implement it here. So now we don't need this tool because it has already been implemented in the base class. What is this one? Maybe we call it, oh yeah, so it's asking me to make it protected. I guess it's fine, we can do that. So the payment here, let's run this test again inside this Australian market. Okay, cool. It's failed because algorithm of undefined. Yeah, this one. Get tip here. Yeah, I guess we need to ban this. Run test again. That's fantastic. We have these all pathing, right? So if we look at this, yeah, that's great. We have them all pathing. If you look at this strategy, and we now, the payment is pretty universal, right? We just passing different strategy, and it will render the payment section correctly with the corresponding algorithm like inserted or injected. That is awesome, and we can do the similar thing for the rest of for the rest too. Let's copy paste this to Japan, and this one will be round up to nearest 100, and the mark is something like this one. And for Denmark, yeah, sorry, I need to rename the class as well. This is for Japan, and this is for Denmark. Denmark is kr dot, and yeah, so in a payment test, we will need to update this as well. So instead of using the country code JP, we will pass in a strategy, which is new roundup strategy Japan, right? And we import this one. And for Denmark as well, it's strategy new roundup strategy for Denmark, and import this. And now if we run all of the tests, yeah, this one is not passing. The Denmark one, I'd like to donate this to charity. This one, what happened here? Oh yes, we are not using the the correct algorithm, so it's round up to nearest 10, and we run test again. Now you can see all of them are passing. That's just brilliant. In the payment, if we have a look at the payment section now, it's pretty much the same thing we had before, right? Just the H3 for the title and the label and the button, and for the formatting label stuff, it's all extracted in the outside world, which is here, and we don't need this anymore, right? So the calculate map is not in used anymore, so we can get rid of this and get rid of these, get rid of this whole thing, and the country code is not necessary as well. So in a type, I don't think this one is used anywhere. Yeah, the type here is not in used, so this one will be not needed. So now we have a abstracted strategy class, which has the reusable code here, and the currency sign will be implemented by each different type here. And I reckon we can actually create a folder for them. Let's say algorithm or strategy folder for these three. We can move it in, and what else? Okay, this is not needed. For this one, okay, this two is not needed. It's just using whatever it required, and this one is using this, which is good. And the payment test are now still passing. Control R, all of them are passing. That's great. And for the hook, that's the last piece. Yeah, we are using strategy.get roundup and strategy.get tip, which is super easy. And yeah, to define in the interface, and we have different strategy for different market that actually doing the tip. Yeah, I guess that's how you use strategy pattern in your React code. I think the code is now super fancy. I think the code now is super stable and maintainable. And if we want to extend one more type, it's pretty simple. You just put the currency sign and different algorithm. Like that's for China. For example, if we want to extend to China, China is using the, I think it's round up to nearest integer or 10. I think it's integer. So for example, if you want to extend one more, let's say strategy China, and it's using this sign as well, but it's using round up to nearest integer algorithm. So that will be renamed this to China, and you can use this yeah, just whatever you like. You can use this just like what you use for like the other markets, like so. So I noticed something more interesting. Like if you look at the using the calling place of the payment, it's now complaining that okay, you didn't pass me a strategy, and you should do the roundup strategy for Australian, things like that. I feel we can do something more fancy to make the code much more stable. Like we can entirely separate the view and strategy. So now it's like a 99% splitted. We can do one more thing using the context to totally split these two things. So let's do that. We can start from introduce one more context. So let's say we have a context. We call it roundup strategy context, which is the TSX. So let's define a new type here. It's roundup context type. So in this type, we only have one thing. Maybe we will export it. it just has one thing, which is a strategy. It's it's a instance of strategy here. Is that not being exported? The strategy. That's interesting. We haven't. Oh, we do, right? It's roundup strategy. Roundup strategy. What's the problem here? Auto import. So yeah. So now we need this strat. So we define a type called roundup strategy context type, and we then export default create context, which is this type. Let me copy this type here, and we will import this from the context. Oh, sorry, that from React, and this one is the type definition. So by default, we will create new roundup strategy for Australian, because Australian is using the default like roundup to integer. I guess it's most common roundup strategy. And then we will need to use this inside here. Let's say we import roundup strategy context from there, and then if we can simply wrap this like roundup.provider, and then pass in the payment by saying value equals to, you know, strategy new roundup strategy for Australia, things like that. And in the payment, so let's focusing on the Australian first. So the payment here, if you go to the component, the strategy is from the props we passed in, but instead of doing that, we can just get this strategy from the context, right? The what do you call that context? Roundup strategy context, and the type is roundup strategy type here, and use context is from React, and this strategy then is from the context. We don't have to pass it in, and now the strategy is from the context, then we don't have to pass it in, and we will get rid of that from the type here. Sorry. And then this will work automatically. And if we have a look at the application here, you can see it's using this fancy thing already. And for this one, it's not actually, it's incorrect because it's still using dollar stuff. But if we provide it with the correct context, like roundup for Japan, roundup for Japan, and we have this built in, and we will remove this one and import the Japan context, and it will work. Look at that, it's 41 and the 3,500, and it's using the Japanese yen sign here. And yeah, this one obviously is not working, but we can fix that very easily by using this mechanism we just built. And we don't need to say it's Denmark but instead we do that here, Denmark, and import the code here. So now if we look at this, it's kr.3. Look at that, it's just as what we expecting. Yeah, that's super fancy, I think. And the context in the real world, I would say it will be set by something else. I think the greatest thing is that in the payment, we can inline this one actually. So in a payment, what we have is a hook, and for the props of the payment, it's just the amount. So everything for the algorithm or strategy is come from the context, which is totally makes sense, right? So the component itself is like pretty standalone or pretty independent, but based on the context, when you switch a different context, it will have different calculation result. But we kind of split that entirely. We kind of split the view or rendering logic and the calculation entirely. For the payment view, it's just responsible for rendering the label, the input box. You take it, it will trigger some action, and the actual calculation is happen behind the scenes, which is in the objects, in the strategies, in a logic. And by the way, the logic is much more simpler, like which essentially is just three functions, right? That's actually the essential, the core of the whole application, and other things are just mechanism to make that happen. And for the context, it's basically a default strategy, and the hook, it's kind of only depends on the interface defined in a strategy. That's just great. And one more thing I think we need to fix is the test now, as it's now using this one. So in React test library, we can do that easily by redefine the my render. It's gsx dot element, and the options strategy will be the roundup strategy, and by default it will be new roundup for Australia. Let's see, and we will return roundup context dot provider value to be the strategy passed in, and so for the actual value is UI. What is happening here? Okay, it will be something like this. And for these renders, we don't need this one anymore, but we will run that with my render. And we can get rid of this for all the tests we have here, and then we don't have to pass it in. Or you can pass it in with the explicitly, but only for the Japan and Denmark you don't pass it in. Maybe we should, I think we should pass it in. It will be more explicitly. It will be more explicitly. And if we run the test from here, yeah, Australian is passing, and for Japan it's just my render. Sorry, it's my render, and the strategy will be the second parameter here, as well as this Denmark one will be this one. Get rid of the strategy parameter and pass it in. We run test again. Yes, all of them are passing. So now if we look at the implementation one more time, it's getting strategy from the context, and it will calculate the total and tip from the context based on the context, and then it in a view itself, it's pretty straightforward. It's only rendering what in the render itself. It's very straightforward. Just run the labels and button label, and passing the strategy in. Strategy will get the correct currency sign for each strategy. And yeah, so on the view, it's just work as before, but the code is much cleaner, and we can easily test these strategies without any without any JSX or without any React. It's pure TypeScript or JavaScript, and you can do that very easily in just import the class and new the class and do something fun with it, and you can get what you are expecting. That is what I have for today, and I think the code is in a much better state. If you have any questions, or you want to discuss in general of design or design patterns, or do you like it or not, please comment below, and yeah, I will look through all of them. Until next time, see you.